Blueberries. They look almost too small to matter. Dark, waxy, barely the size of a fingertip. But blueberries are one of the most studied fruits in the world when it comes to kidney function, and that reputation did not come from marketing. It came from decades of research pointing at one thing: their antioxidant content. Blueberries are packed with anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their deep purple-blue color. Those compounds help reduce oxidative stress in kidney tissue, which matters because the kidneys filter enormous amounts of blood daily and are constantly exposed to damaging byproducts. The fruit is eaten raw, tossed into oatmeal, blended into smoothies, or folded into yogurt. What separates blueberries from other berries in this context is their relatively low potassium and phosphorus levels, which makes them safer for people managing kidney conditions compared to fruits like bananas or oranges that load up on those minerals. A fresh, ripe blueberry pops cleanly between the teeth and delivers a flavor that sits between tart and sweet depending on the variety. Frozen blueberries hold most of their nutritional profile, though the texture softens considerably after thawing. Whether fresh or frozen genuinely changes the experience is one of those questions that tends to stay open. Red bell pepper. Most people associate red bell peppers with cooking rather than kidney care, which makes their place on this list one of the more underestimated positions. A red bell pepper is a thick-walled, glossy sweet vegetable grown from the Capsicum annuum plant, the same species as chili peppers, though completely without heat. What makes it particularly suited to kidney health is its low potassium content combined with the surprisingly high concentration of vitamins C, B6, and folic acid. The kidneys struggle to process excess potassium efficiently when they are already under stress, so low potassium foods become genuinely valuable rather than just generally healthy. Red bell peppers are roasted until their skin blisters and peels away to reveal a softer, smoky interior, or eaten raw in slices where the flesh stays crisp and almost juicy. The flavor raw is bright and sweet with a very faint, grassy edge. Roasted, it becomes deeper, slightly caramelized, with the sweetness intensifying considerably. Compared with green bell peppers, the red version is simply more mature, left longer on the vine, which converts its chlorophyll into those red pigments and builds up more sugar. That ripening process also concentrates the nutritional compounds, which is part of why red specifically tends to appear on kidney-focused food lists rather than the green or yellow varieties. Cauliflower? There is a reason cauliflower has ended up in places no one expected: rice, pizza crust, steak presentations. But its value for kidney health is more straightforward than any of those reinventions suggest. Cauliflower is a cruciferous vegetable, tightly packed into dense white or cream-colored florets that grow from a single, thick, central stalk. It is low in potassium and phosphorus, which immediately makes it useful for anyone monitoring kidney function. Beyond that, it contains indoles and glucosinolates, compounds that support the liver and kidneys in detoxification processes. It is typically eaten steamed until just tender, roasted until the edges develop a golden, slightly nutty crust, or pureed into a smooth, thick consistency that works as a lower mineral alternative to mashed potatoes. The texture when well cooked is soft with a mild resistance, and the flavor is clean and neutral with just a faint bitterness at the back. A poorly cooked cauliflower, overboiled into waterlogged softness, loses both texture and most of its appeal. The difference between a properly roasted floret and a boiled one is significant enough that the preparation method genuinely changes whether people enjoy it. Purple and green varieties exist and carry the same basic profile, though their color suggests slightly different antioxidant compositions. Garlic. Garlic does not look like a superfood. It is small, papery, irregular, and the smell it leaves behind is something people either accept completely or avoid entirely. That social cost is real, and it is worth naming. Garlic is the bulb of Allium sativum, a plant in the onion family cultivated for thousands of years across nearly every major food culture in the world. Its kidney-relevant benefit comes primarily from allicin, a sulfur compound released when the clove is crushed or chopped, not when it is kept whole. That detail matters because whole roasted garlic, which is much milder and sweeter, carries less of that active compound than raw minced garlic does. For kidney health, garlic functions as an anti-inflammatory agent, helping reduce the chronic low-grade inflammation that strains kidney tissue over time. It is eaten cooked into sauces, fried in oil as a base for stews, rubbed into bread, fermented into black garlic, or consumed raw in dressings and dips. Black garlic, fermented for weeks at controlled heat, transforms in both color and flavor, becoming dark, sticky, and intensely sweet with almost molasses-like depth, while losing some of its sharp pungency. Whether the fermented version retains the same kidney protective compounds as raw garlic is a question nutritionists have not fully settled. Beets. Beets bleed. Cut one open and the deep magenta juice stains everything it touches. Cutting boards, hands, kitchen cloths. That color is not just visual drama. It is the betalain pigment that gives beets much of their antioxidant value. Beets are the root of Beta vulgaris, a plant cultivated since ancient Rome primarily for that thick, round, intensely pigmented root. For the kidneys, the relevant compounds include nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule that helps relax and dilate blood vessels. Better blood flow through the kidneys means more efficient filtration. Beets are eaten roasted until tender and caramelized at the skin, boiled and sliced cold into salads, blended into juices, or pickled in vinegar until their sweetness and earthiness sharpen into something more acidic. The flavor raw is dense, earthy, and sweet in a way that feels almost mineral. Cooked, the sweetness lifts and the earthiness softens. Some people find that mineral quality beautiful, others find it distinctly off-putting. Comparing the taste to soil in a way they mean literally. Golden beets are available as a milder alternative, less dramatic visually, less intense in flavor, with a gentler sweetness. Whether the pigment-heavy red variety or the calmer golden version is more kidney-supportive depends on which compounds you are specifically prioritizing. Cabbage. Cabbage is one of the oldest cultivated vegetables in the world, and for much of history it was not a health food. It was survival food. Dense, cheap, storable for weeks, and available through cold seasons when little else grew. Today its value for kidney health comes from a different kind of attention. Cabbage is a leafy cruciferous vegetable, usually pale green or purple-red, with tightly layered leaves forming a round, compact head. It is extremely low in potassium, which places it among the safer vegetable choices for people with reduced kidney function where potassium accumulation becomes a medical concern. Raw cabbage is crisp, slightly bitter and fresh tasting. Cooked cabbage becomes soft, sweeter, and distinctly more pungent, particularly when boiled, where the sulfur compounds it shares with other brassicas become quite noticeable. The fermented version, sauerkraut, transforms it further through lactic acid fermentation. The texture turns tender, the flavor turns sharply sour, and the probiotic content rises significantly. Whether fermented cabbage retains the same kidney benefit as raw is genuinely debated, partly because fermented versions tend to be high in sodium, which creates its own complications for kidney management. Kimchi, Korea's spiced fermented cabbage, adds garlic, ginger, pepper, and chili into that same base, making it more complex, more culturally layered, and arguably more divisive in terms of kidney suitability. Salmon. Salmon is not a low-impact food. A thick fillet of Atlantic salmon is deeply colored, ranging from pale pink to almost orange-red, rich in fat, and noticeably more substantial than most fish on a plate. That fat content is exactly the point. Salmon is one of the most concentrated natural sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, the forms the body uses most efficiently. For kidney health, omega-3s help reduce triglyceride levels and lower chronic inflammation, two factors that directly affect how well the kidneys maintain blood pressure and filtration efficiency over time. Salmon is eaten grilled until the outside forms a slightly crisp, caramelized layer while the center stays moist and almost silky, baked with herbs and lemon, poached until the texture becomes delicate and flaky, or served raw as sashimi where the fat creates a soft, almost buttery sensation. Wild-caught salmon tends to carry a stronger, more complex flavor than farmed salmon, which is typically milder and fattier due to differences in diet and activity level. That distinction matters for people who find the flavor of salmon too intense. Farmed often performs better as an approachable entry point. Canned salmon works as a lower-cost alternative and retains meaningful omega-3 content, though the texture and experience are substantially different from fresh. Ginger. A knobby, pale brown root that looks unremarkable on the outside but releases a sharp, almost burning warmth the moment it is cut. Ginger is the underground rhizome of Zingiber officinale, a plant native to Southeast Asia that has been used in cooking and traditional medicine for over 3,000 years. Its kidney-relevant properties center on gingerols and shogaols, the compounds responsible for its heat, which carry anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects that research has consistently associated with reduced kidney damage in high-stress conditions like diabetes-related kidney disease. Fresh ginger is grated into teas, sliced thin into broths, pounded into marinades, or pressed for juice. Dried and powdered, it loses some of the sharp fresh heat and develops a warmer, spicier quality more suited to baking. Pickled ginger, The pale pink slices served with sushi is a different experience again. Mild, sweet acidic, and stripped of most of its intensity through the pickling process. The raw root grated finely and steeped in hot water for several minutes produces a tea with a clean, throat-warming heat that some people drink daily for digestive and kidney support. Whether that daily use makes a measurable difference depends significantly on how much is used and the overall dietary context around it. Egg whites. The yolk is the part most people think about first. Golden, rich, and responsible for most of the egg's fat and cholesterol. But for kidney health, the white is the more relevant half. Egg whites are the clear, protein-rich liquid surrounding the yolk inside a chicken egg. When cooked, they firm into an opaque, smooth, slightly rubbery solid. The reason egg whites appear on kidney-supportive food lists is specific. They provide high-quality protein with a very low phosphorus load compared to the yolk. The kidneys in a compromised state struggle to excrete excess phosphorus efficiently, which can lead to serious complications involving bones and cardiovascular health over time. Egg whites give the body a usable protein source without that phosphorus burden. They are poached until just set and still slightly trembling in the center. Scrambled soft, folded into omelets, whipped into stiff peaks for meringues, or used as a binder in baked goods. The texture when properly cooked is smooth and tender. Overcooked egg white turns rubbery and tight in an unpleasant way. Compared with plant-based protein sources like beans or lentils, which are higher in potassium and phosphorus, egg whites occupy a specific, difficult-to-replace position for people managing late-stage kidney conditions. Whether whole eggs are still appropriate depends heavily on individual kidney health status, which tends to be where the discussion moves quickly among people with direct experience. Arugula. Most salad greens are interchangeable in the minds of many viewers. Arugula refuses to be. It is a dark green, slightly jagged-edged leaf with a flavor that bites back. Peppery, bitter, and sharp in a way that makes it immediately distinct from the soft neutrality of iceberg or the mild earthiness of spinach. Arugula belongs to the Brassica family and has been eaten in the Mediterranean since Roman times, where it was used not just as food, but as a medicinal plant. For kidney health, arugula is relevant for its low oxalic acid content compared to spinach, a detail that matters because high oxalate foods can contribute to certain types of kidney stones in susceptible people. It also carries meaningful amounts of vitamin K, folate, and antioxidants without loading up on potassium or phosphorus in the way that other leafy greens sometimes do. Arugula is eaten raw in salads dressed with olive oil and lemon, layered onto flatbreads after baking so the heat wilts the leaves slightly at the edges, or blended into pesto as a sharper, more assertive alternative to basil. The peppery quality softens considerably when the leaves are wilted with heat. People who find raw arugula too aggressive often prefer it this way. Whether the bitterness feels like depth or just unpleasantness depends entirely on the eater, and that line tends to divide strongly.